Prosecuting Authority spy tape saga and the ruling. We now cross to our SABC reporter Aldrin Sampear in Pretoria. Aldrin, a big ruling on the spy tapes. What came out of it?
Well, yes, that decision there coming from Shaun Abrams, the national head of the NPA, indicating that the decision has been taken to apply for leave to appeal that ruling from the full bench of the Gauteng High Court, that the charges against President Jacob Zuma be set aside, that the matter be reviewed as well by the NPA. And of course, the reasons that he gave there, the major argument or the grounds therefore is around the issue around the separation of powers, and he also went through the Prosecutorial Act, listing out where and not, rather, the NPA could not be influenced. He mentioned politicians shouldn't influence the NPA. The NPA acts without fear, favor, or prejudice. He actually mentioned that about 6 times throughout the entire press briefing. Another issue that I raised particularly was whether they feel that there are still grounds, or whether President Jacob Zuma will not receive a fair trial should this matter, should the charges against him be reinstated. Remember that was the case set out by Aldrin Sampear, who was the acting head of the NPA at the time, when he decided to drop the charges against the president.
There was also the mention of Pravin Gordhan earlier in the speech. Take us through that particular story, because it seems like the NPA is not in favour of arresting the finance minister.
Well, he actually went on and on about that matter. Remember that today the reason that we were here was actually for the announcement around whether the NPA will appeal the decision by the High Court. But he first started off his press briefing around the issue of the so-called imminent arrest of the finance minister, Pravin Gordhan, and saying that he's been giving media interviews as well, explaining the current process and explaining that the investigations are continuing. And in some cases, he felt that his explanations were ignored as well, in saying that this has an impact on the economy. He also spoke about how politicians as well as commentators have commentated on this matter, and how this matter is affecting the economy. He says that investigation is still continuing, and he will have the final say whether or not there will be any prosecutions with regards to the SARS rogue unit. You would remember that the Hawks had sent a docket to the NPA before, but that docket was then sent back to the Hawks for further investigation, or with guidance, as the NPA puts it.
Let's go back to the NPA case. Did he give any timelines or in terms of the appeal case?
Well, he says that the state attorney has been instructed to file the papers today. So as soon as, I guess, the matter is put on the court rolls, we will hear that matter. And we know that actually for the past few major cases around the Supreme Court of Appeal, there's also been a great turnaround in how quick the Supreme Court of Appeal is willing to listen to these cases. There was also a question at why the NPA did not rather go directly to the Constitutional Court to appeal this matter and ventilate it right at the Constitutional Court, instead of going throughout the Supreme Court of Appeal. And some have said that it might look like a delayed tactic, and the NPA boss saying that this is not a delayed tactic, but rather they want to show confidence in the judiciary as well as the Supreme Court of Appeal, and that's the reason why they've decided to take it on appeal.
Aldrin Sampear, thank you so much for that update. That's our reporter at the NPA briefing, giving us the latest. We'll take a short break, and we'll be right back at the top of the hour.